Hello and welcome to a brief overview of applied learning theories in practice. This short course is part of my university studies and will form the basis for a current assessment task that I need to complete. So I appreciate your involvement and hope that it can be of benefit to you as well. As part of my assessment, I'll also need to collect a survey. The information you provide will be used for the purpose of my assessment and nowhere else. And once again, I just want to say thanks for being involved. Now, the purpose of this short course is to provide an overview of the applied learning principles and how these relate to other learning theories. So before we can look at the principles, it would be a good idea for us to consider what is applied learning and gain an understanding of the holistic theory first. Now, this is easier said than done, as applied learning is not one neat little package, but rather it is a collection of various theories that have been built on to give a basis for applied learning. Schwartzman and Henry describe applied learning in the following way. Applied learning refers more to a spirit or movement in education than to a definitively bounded subject matter. Concrete experience, learning by doing, lies at the core of applied learning. This pedagogy represents active learning at its most literal level, the activity of putting intellectual principles into practice. It can be seen by this description of applied learning that it has great relevance and benefit to those of us within the VET education system, especially as we focus on the learning by doing method of education. During this presentation, we'll have a brief look at applied learning theory and practice, how these relate to other teaching theories and models, the principles of applied learning, and how these relate to our teaching practices at TAFE and other institutions. By reviewing other teaching and learning theories, we can demonstrate that applied learning has foundational basis that is set upon several of these well-known learning styles and theories, and links can easily be made between them. For example, applied learning has some element of humanism, in which individuals recognize a need in themselves to know more and set out to achieve this by setting a goal or solving a problem, and in doing so reach new potential. Applied learning can also be linked with constructivism, in which states that learning will occur when a person reflects on their past experiences and uses these to build knowledge. Further to this, applied learning can be linked to social constructivism, in which every conversation or encounter between two or more people presents an opportunity for new knowledge to be obtained or existing knowledge expanded. And applied learning can also be linked to situated learning, which occurs through communities of practice where individuals spend time with other people and sharing of knowledge occurs through general conversations and questions. As teachers and assessors, we can easily ensure that we incorporate applied learning into our delivery and practices to enhance student learning involvement by adopting the 8 principles of applied learning, as discussed by Blake, which provide a foundation for applied learning in action. These principles are: start where the learners are at, negotiate the curriculum, sharing knowledge, connect with communities and real-life experiences, build resilience, self-confidence, and self-worth, integrated learning, promote diversity of learning styles and methods, and to assess appropriately. We'll be looking at each of these in turn in more detail, including examples of how we can incorporate these into our classrooms. Applied Learning Principle 1 states that we should make efforts to understand the level our students are at and to start our education based on where the learners are at. At TAFE, we can do this through a number of mechanisms. For example, the use of our language literacy and numeracy pre-course testing to identify possible needs or gaps within our student learning. And with this, we can use this information to help support our students individually by building the level of knowledge in those gaps. We can ask questions to gauge our students' socioeconomic and cultural backgrounds, which may have an impact on their desire to learn or even their ability to communicate easily, and how this may affect their learning. Once we have an understanding of social and cultural needs, we can tailor our delivery to accommodate the needs in a respectful manner. Through conversation, we can also assess the general well-being of our students, noting that if they have had any recent traumatic experiences of either a minor or major nature, that may impact on their desire to even be at TAFE, let alone wanting to apply themselves to study. Applied Learning Principle 2 states that as teachers, we should be willing to negotiate the curriculum by engaging in dialogue with learners about their curriculum and the way they feel they need to learn. Although we have certain elements of our training packages that must be taught, we can still look at the whole process of the education we deliver and consider how we can educate in an engaging manner. We can ask our students what works for them and find out how we can adapt our teaching methods to suit. We should always be willing to evolve our teaching methods and styles to promote active and engaged learning. We can also look at our curriculum to ensure that new technologies are being included so our students are able to see further adaptations of their knowledge and areas in which they can develop. This can be achieved through reading industry journals and maintaining industry currency. And we can also consider the where of our delivery. Traditional classroom delivery may become boring for students, and by simply taking them for a walk to look at some real-world applications, it may increase in them a desire to learn. Applied Learning Principle 3 states that we should welcome the fact that our learners bring to the table a wealth of knowledge, and we should be willing to enable them to feel comfortable sharing this knowledge in an effort to promote collective growth in our learners. At TAFE, we have a wide range of students with very diverse backgrounds and prior knowledge. If we can recognise this level of knowledge and engage in dialogue with our students around this, then our students will feel more valued and engaged with the training. This will also help our students to take ownership of the training, knowing that their input is valued. By connecting existing learner knowledge with the set curriculum, all of the students within our classrooms will develop a greater knowledge in general, helping them to grow both in knowledge and in the community of practice that is the classroom. And by recognising prior knowledge that students bring into a classroom, it may be possible to progress at a faster rate of training as well, as we may find our students already have a firm understanding of particular elements of the material being delivered. Applied Learning Principle 4 states that it is important that we go beyond the walls of our classroom and connect with communities and real-life experiences to help understand and build relevant knowledge in our learners. For us at TAFE, this can be done by ensuring we maintain a connection with the real world and advancements within our industry so that when we teach, we can be providing relevant information. This can also be done through our 2-week professional work release, where we are maintaining currency and also mixing with industry in the real world. We can also consider joining professional community organisations that relate to our industry, for example, the Masters Electricians organisation. And by doing this, we will help to achieve an authentic and relevant level of education for our students through our understanding of what is happening beyond the walls of our classrooms. Applied Learning Principle 5 states that we should also endeavour to build resilience, confidence and self-worth in our learners, along with the theoretical education we need to provide for them. When we are educating someone, it is important that we recognise that we are actually changing their whole world. The knowledge we are passing on to them through education can potentially give them a whole new trajectory in life. This is something that we can instill in them and also celebrate with them when they have success. Rather than just delivering our course content, we should also encourage our students to be ready and prepared for new and exciting developments within their lives as a direct consequence of the knowledge that we impart to them and the changes that may occur in their lives due to this. Likewise at TAFE, as teachers, we have the opportunity to build our students up, letting them know that they are valued and have great potential. In doing so, their self-worth and confidence will grow and their likelihood of finding meaningful employment will be greatly enhanced. Applied Learning Principle 6 states that where possible we should integrate learning by considering the whole task and the whole person and recognising that in life we use a range of skills and knowledge, and this should be integrated into the learning environment. Where possible, we should look to decompartmentalise our delivery of knowledge, drawing on as many experiences and relevant concepts as possible to support and structure our content. We need to draw connections between various elements of what we are teaching and incorporate all of them where possible to build student knowledge. At TAFE, we have the opportunity to easily link our vocational education with real-world day-to-day tasks, ensuring that our students see the relevance in our training and can make connections between the two. In doing so, our students see value in what they are learning, giving them greater confidence to take this knowledge out to the real-world tasks that they do. By creating these links, our students will be more engaged and willing to come back for further education. Applied Learning Principle 7 states that in delivering our education, it is important to recognise that everyone learns differently, so we should promote diversity of learning styles and methods. Our delivery should encompass a variety of different learning and teaching methods. To achieve this, we need to be firstly aware of what different learning styles are, and then decide on how we can deliver our material in such a way as to promote stimulating learning for all of our learners, ensuring they each have equal opportunity to understand and develop their knowledge. We should also consider our testing and assessment methods when promoting diversity of learning styles to ensure all students have the opportunity to demonstrate their knowledge in a way that is relevant to them. And lastly, Applied Learning Principle 8 states that we need to ensure that we assess appropriately by using the assessment method that best fits the learning content and context. Within the TAFE system, we can consider our particular domain and the best way in which we can have our students demonstrate their knowledge and why we are assessing them. We should also consider the sequencing of this assessment. Is it summative type assessment that enables students to progress to the next level, or are we better to use formative assessment that considers our students' progress through the entire delivery? It is also important that we ensure that any assessment we conduct is aligned appropriately with our teaching content. Are the items being examined Are there items being examined that actually were not covered adequately in the delivery material? Do we need to change the assessment or change the delivery of that material? Having considered the foundational theories of learning and the 8 principles for applied learning, it may be noted that although there are a considerable amount of overlap that occurs between them, this is not a bad thing at all and makes it easy to segue between theories and principles in the classroom. No one theory or principle needs to be compartmentalized and used alone, but rather it can be used in conjunction with multiple other theories and principles to support learner needs and education, giving a much broader scope of application. It should be apparent that the vocational education and training system is an ideal location for the use of applied learning, incorporating the various learning theories discussed earlier and the 8 principles just covered. If these principles are incorporated into our delivery methods, it is likely that we will have an engaged and genuinely interested group of learners. With this will come a higher desire to learn and a greater chance of obtaining a quality education. Not only is this something that, as TAFE educators, we should be wanting to develop in our delivery methods, but it is also something that is encouraged by our employer, with applied learning linking directly to TAFE Queensland learning and teaching principles and practices, as shown. In particular, the 8 applied learning principles directly relate to Principle 1, which says engage learners through challenging learning experiences using applied learning principles. Principle 2, design and develop programs that integrate learning theory with industry practice to deepen learning and improving outcomes. Principle 3, which says authentic assessment. And Principle 7, which says support learners to develop the skills to meet industry expectations and standards. All of these principles link to TAFE Queensland's main goal, which states to provide learning, teaching and assessment that is authentic and relevant, reflecting industry standards and informed by applied learning theory and learner engagement principles. I have recently undertaken prac placement within a high school setting where I was able to observe applied learning principles in practice within that situation. This occurred through things such as humanism, with students recognising a need to know more and to be able to achieve things in an easier way. I also witnessed social constructivism in action, with students eagerly seeking out teachers' input and conversation, asking questions that would help them to obtain new knowledge. Through classroom constructivism, with students reflecting on past experiences, particularly those who had made mistakes with their workpiece, and were able to learn from this as they progressed forward. And during traditional classroom lessons, I witnessed situated learning with communities of practice as students shared information with their fellow students, helping to develop each other's understanding through general conversation. I hope that you enjoyed this short presentation and that it has enabled and enhanced your knowledge of applied learning and how it relates to us as educators. As discussed, I would truly appreciate it if you could complete the survey, including any questions or comments that you may have. Thank you very much.